Made a reference to watching at least half of this podcast yesterday or the day before. I can't quite remember, but it was the Dr. Robert Malone. Okay, he was the guy who was very foundational, if not like the guy whose name is like first up there as to invented the mRNA technology. Okay, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. Okay, and they had a very not safe to discuss, at least on YouTube, conversation that was very enlightening, very scary, very frightening. But the headline that they have here is just absolutely incorrect. But it's very, very funny, all things considered, because Malone was talking a lot about cancel culture and all that kind of stuff, and most of it being promulgated by the very, very power-hungry Anthony Fauci. And now it looks like he has his little lapdogs out there just trying to cancel Joe Rogan, okay? And yeah, the last time we seen this big conglomerate of doctors with their hive mind think, they ended up ostracizing the same doctors, okay? The same fringe doctors from places like Oxford, Stanford, and Harvard, you know, those fringe universities. Same time, there was a big call for them to be pushed out of society. They were successful. And there's been the smaller attempts to try to get Joe Rogan thrown off because he had the audacity to host controversial figures with wrongthink. It's like, okay, well, if you didn't like this one episode, you could just watch another one of those fucking harmless, banal episodes with Adam Curry or one of his painfully unfunny comedian friends. But yeah, man, let's see what they're complaining about on this one. 270 doctors and scientists, oh, I bet you they all follow the science, sign open letter to Spotify calling for it to stop Joe Rogan from spreading anti-vax misinformation. Why? Because Malone outlined what exactly misinformation and disinformation as described by the trusted. It was something I'm going to be talking about, okay, once we get some time. It's, was it the Trusted Media Alliance? It's something like that, okay? They decided what disinformation and what and misinformation is. So it's funny. It's like they didn't even bother watching the podcast in order to phrase their shit right, but whatever. Yeah, Joe Rogan, the known anti-vaxxer, apparently. After he hosted virologist who called this is where it's incorrect, called the vaccination program a mass formation psychosis. No, he said the response to everything is not the plan itself, but okay. Hundreds of doctors and scientists have signed an open letter to Spotify accusing Joe Rogan of pushing anti-vax misinformation on his podcast, with one branding him a menace to public health. You couldn't sound more like the Puritans of the 1950s. It's like, you're a menace. Whew. That's very tough talk you have there. Total of 270 experts and medical professionals called on the streaming giant to adopt a misinformation policy. Yeah, because actually Spotify is one of the places where I'm not entirely sure if that's for everybody, but they don't censor what is said on there. At least not what we know, okay? Posting up old episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience, yeah, that might not be allowed by them. That might have been a concession that was admitted to by Joe Rogan, which is kind of why I'm not the biggest fan of him, but whatever, at least in this instance, it's like, yeah, no, this is retarded. Why the fuck would these people be calling for it? Oh, because they exposed a bunch of shit. Really does suck to suck. So yeah, they just want to have their little not fact checkers be able to regulate what is said in the well-being of public health, which I don't know if you guys were reading a little bit earlier, but Malone compared US to Nazi Germany and said public has been hypnotized. And it's like, okay, that's a very inflammatory statement, but if you can back it up, go right ahead. But the whole public health idea and the whole federalized application of the public health service, yeah, that was started by a little guy with a funny little mustache and the slicked over hair. Again, not exactly the greatest linguist in making up this complaint. During a 3-hour, 6-minute interview with the now viral episode 1757 of the Joe Rogan Experience, Malone compared the U.S. to Nazi Germany and say today's society is suffering from mass formation psychosis over the use of vaccines. Again, it's not what he's saying, but that's what you guys are running with, I guess. He also claimed to be a part of the team that invented the mRNA technology used for the jab. No, I don't think anybody's disputing that, and you can just say he was a part of that, but I get what you're trying to do. I get what you're trying to do here, Daily Mail. Or more specifically, Lawrence Dollamore said pharmaceutical companies administering vaccines such as Pfizer and Moderna have financial conflicts of interests. Yeah, how many Millions of doses have they sold directly to the federal government, and why would they have a constant stake in wanting to institute more and more boosters over and over again and continue to have say in what it means to be fully vaccinated, or when the pandemic will be over once we can get things under control? No, couldn't possibly be a conflict of interest there. Now, hundreds of medical professionals have fact-checked Malone and demanded accountability from Spotify. Those are also very big claims, and they might have fact-checked to their standard, but to reality standard, don't know. Which Banda reported, $100 million. They're just mad about that, big mad. In an open letter, they said an estimated 11 million listeners per episode, JRE, which is hosted exclusively on Spotify, is the world's largest podcast and has tremendous influence. And we're mad we can't buy him either. He doesn't need our advertising dollars. What the fuck? Spotify has a responsibility to mitigate, this is apparently their words, the spread of misinformation on its platform. Though the company presently has no misinformation policy. Listen, we're going to tell you, you have a responsibility to mitigate what we consider misinformation, even though you don't have a policy and you seem to not really care that much about what we think, but we really want you to care what we think because we think it's important. Letter claims Rogan has a penchant for broadcasting misinformation. Like what? Can you cite any of it, or do you just want to try to smear him? How far down do we have to get before he gets called a bigot or a transphobe? Broadcasting misinformation, particularly regarding the COVID pandemic, and an episode with Malone prompted baseless conspiracy theories, including an unfounded theory that societal leaders have hypnotized the public. Well, he's allowed to explore different ideas, okay? But again, I love these turns of phrase, okay? It's shit that we've been seeing over and over again whenever anybody questions the narrative, not even specifically about my pandemic, but baseless conspiracy theories. Oh, okay, cool. You can just slander them, okay? And remember, early in the pandemic, Rogan had Dr. Peter Hotez, one of your guys, one of the 270, I'd assume, okay? He was on there. He was on there a couple of times. You guys didn't have any problem with him then. What's changed all of a sudden? I wonder. The letter added, Dr. Malone is one of the two recent JRE guests who has compared pandemic policies to the Holocaust. Well, stop acting like Nazis and you won't get the comparisons. These actions are not only objectionable, but offensive and also medically and culturally dangerous. Okay, cool. Cry more. In the episode posted on New Year's Eve, Malone said it was from basically European intellectual inquiry into what the heck happened in Germany in the 20s and 30s. A very intelligent, highly educated population. And they went barking mad. Yeah. Thanks to the huge impositions by world governments and world leaders, okay, in the fallout of World War I and the huge taxation and the huge financial burden that was placed on the Germans, okay, they ended up getting crushed under the weight of the world. But that's what happens. And how did that happen? The answer is mass formation psychosis. Again, where does jabs come into any of this? Misleading headlines. When you have a society that becomes decoupled from each other and has a free-floating anxiety in the sense that things don't make sense, we can't understand it. And then their attention gets focused by a leader or series of events by one small point, just like hypnosis. They literally become hypnotized and they can be led anywhere. Again, just taken out of context, that could be explaining a multitude of things. It's just one of those theories that's out there, okay? It's one of those ideas that was properly articulated by a guy who has more degrees than a fucking thermometer and is very attuned to what is going on. Like I said, I can't recommend this episode enough. It was horrifying, terrifying, but very, very intellectually stimulating. So if you're interested in that, it's free to go and watch, okay? I don't like to simp for big corporations, and especially if Spotify's going to buckle, which I kind of think they might on this one. Maybe, kind of. Because this is some actual heat, not some blue-haired land whales that are just outside, slowly raising their arms. Not for too long, though. Calling for the head of Joe Rogan. Streaming giant YouTube removed the episode from its platform. It was never posted to YouTube, though. Weird. While Malone's Twitter account, which has amassed 500,000 followers, was suspended hours before appearing on the show for violating its rules. Yeah, we talked about that before. He was one of the ones who was yeeted off of there for reasons, and I forget exactly what it was, but it was one of those, oh, you transgressed the rule that we selectively apply, but it's Twitter. What do you expect? The episode is still available on Spotify on Thursday, and I think, I can check it right now. Yeah, you can hear it a little bit there, so still good to go for as far as I'm concerned, so that could also change by the time this gets posted, so. See what one of these idiots had to say. Dr. Katrine Wallace. Okay, what is she, a fucking podiatrist? Branded Rogan a menace to public health, adding that she condemned people, or him giving people like Malone a platform. What an accomplished virologist and a medical expert for multiple decades, as opposed to you, Dr. Katrine Wallace, somebody who has given comment to such illustrious platforms like the ones who were claiming that hospitals in Oklahoma were overloaded with people overdosing on ivermectin, right? That same Rolling Stone? Okay, the one that used to, critique music, but all of a sudden dived into the culture war because Orange Man really bad. But I just want to check who the fuck this bitch is, by the way. I'm going to laugh my dick off if she's something like a fucking dermatologist. She's apparently an epidemiologist and a science communicator. Problem glasses, soup bowl bangs, dyed hair. Okay, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense. Dr. Wallace, doctor, okay, has 15 plus years of professional research experience in epidemiology. Okay, received her PhD in 2013. Okay. Known as Dr. Cat on her popular social media channels. What qualifies as popular? I'm surprised there isn't a link to an OnlyFans. Oh my, 3,800 followers. Congratulations. Much more of a following than I have. But apparently that qualifies as popular. Oh, okay. Okay, it's just Twitter. Okay, what about her YouTube channel? Let's see. Okay, we'll compare apples to apples, all right? I want to blow my brains out. She's very popular. 203 subscribers. I'm 4 times larger than her. But hopefully I'm at least 4 times more tolerable. That's the type of people we're dealing with here. She's been 15 years in the industry, right, guys? Yep, 15 years. Yep, received her PhD in 2013. Cool. I used to sweep up back when I was, my first job when I was 13 or something. I was sweeping up a diesel mechanics shop. So I guess I have 18 years of heavy duty machinery experience. Oh, okay, cool. She told Rolling Stone, let's just get back to this because that was preposterous. She told Rolling Stone that his claims are fringe ideas and not backed in science. He's the motherfucker who legitimately developed the mRNA technology, but okay, cool. She went to University of Chicago. Cool. She added, having it on a huge platform makes me jealous. Oh, it seems that there are 2 sides to this issue. There are really not. Listen to what we have to say and I won't have to cancel you. God damn it, why won't you get in line? The overwhelming evidence is that vaccines work and it is safe. Hey, question. If you watch this and listen to it, and read it and you didn't just automatically spurg out because you seen somebody's name who you didn't like in a podcast that you couldn't get on, I'm just wondering if you know of Dr. Malone's vaccine status. I'm wondering if you know that, or if he's ever recovered, or if he's ever been infected from the coof. I just wonder. These are basic questions that are answered very quickly into the interview. It's something that I know. I listened to it and I watched it as well, but it's something that I don't think Dr. Cat could answer for us. But here's Ben Ryan, not nearly as based as Ben Stein, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, all right, who co-authored the letter. Did he know the other epidemiologist who ended up getting canceled? But he's a neuroscientist, so he knows a thing or two about viruses, right? All right, cool. Did you also ask Sam Harris for his opinion as well? Because that's about as useful of a fucking opinion as you're going to get. People who don't have the scientific or medical backgrounds to recognize the things he's saying are not true and are unable to distinguish fact from fiction are going to believe what Dr. Malone is saying. Not discrediting anything that Malone says. And this is the biggest podcast in the world, and that's terrifying. Listen, there are too many people with wrong think out there, and we think that that's a problem, so we're gonna need that shut down. Okay, thanks. In the podcast episode, Rogan talked about Malone's Twitter ban from Twitter, which happened just one day before the podcast was released. Actually, before it was recorded, but just a little detail that somebody who, like I said, actually watched it and didn't just do a write-up on secondhand information. Weird. They removed you for not going along with whatever the tech narrative is because tech clearly has a censorship agenda when it comes to COOF in terms of treatment, in terms of whether or not it is promoting what they would call vaccine hesitancy. Exactly. They can ban you for that, Rogan said, adding that Malone is one of the most qualified people in the world to talk about vaccines. Yeah, he literally, again, I can't overstate this. He was one of the motherfuckers who developed the mRNA technology. Who else could be talking about these mRNA technologies better than the guy who fucking invented the shit? But again, I won't belabor the point, okay? I got a link to the article, obviously, as always, and then also, of course, to the links to Dr. Cat for you to do a little bit more research if you'd like to. If you're feeling necessarily alone this Thursday evening, but whatever. There's more spicy claims that are in here. And again, like I said, I can't recommend that episode of the podcast highly enough. And if this was a less restrictive platform, we'd be able to go over the 3-hour-long podcast in a lot more depth because it was very enlightening. We'll say that. And as a guy who does the research on a daily fucking basis when it comes to these topics, I feel fairly safe in listening to the guy whose name has come up consistently throughout the development of the vaccines, the administering of the vaccines, and the questions asked of the vaccines. So again, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't have any expertise in the area. Dr. Malone does, and none of this video constitutes medical advice. That's for your medical professional to decide for you. Fucking stupid disclaimers. And again, we didn't even talk about any of the jabs, okay, whether you should or shouldn't. Once again, totally up to you. Totally up to whatever the fuck you want to do. All I want you to know is everything that's out there and make your best educated decision based on the facts, whether you like them, agree with them on the face of them or not, because facts don't care about your feelings. Ugh. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. Why don't you follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.